Hello, I'm Ryan McEachern, and welcome to The DIG. Coming up, we have Carly Winfield from PROVIX to share her first-person account flying across Canada. But before that, we have our own Stephanie Alvarez to share some important information with us. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Ryan. I would like to share some updates on the trade shows for 2020 with you and our viewers. Convención Internacional Minera in Sonora, Mexico has been postponed to February 2nd to 6th of 2021. Also, Expo Min in Santiago, Chile will be taking place on November 9th to 13th of 2020. And a little bit later on the show, I will be talking about our future guests on the day.
Thanks, Stephanie. Looking forward to it. As we look to open our economy, the prospect of flying again will also become a reality for many of us. How will that look? How safe will we feel? To help us answer these and other questions, we are very fortunate to have Carly Winfield to share her recent experience flying across Canada. Hi, Carly. Great to see you. Welcome to The DIG.
Thanks, Ryan. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and I'm really glad to have you because when I found out that you were flying across the country, not too many people have been doing that. And I had to have you on the show to kind of share your experience with people because I'm sure in the future here, more people are going to be traveling. So let's start with that story. So how, getting out, you get your bags at the curb and you're walking in. How does that go?
Yeah, so basically I flew from Toronto to Vancouver approximately 1 month ago. I purchased my ticket online. And when I arrived there, upon getting into the entrance, I was kind of surprised because there was nobody enforcing wearing a mask or doing temperature checks or anything like that. Upon getting from the entrance into where I would check my bags, I noticed that there were, I believe, kiosks open. I didn't see a lot of extra staff seeming to be checking anyone's temperatures or sanitizing the stations or anything like that. I walked up to the check-in to check my bag. Again, no temperature check or anything like that. I was able to successfully check my bags. And
were you wearing a mask or were people wearing masks? Or?
So I was wearing a mask because when I purchased my ticket online, much like where you have to say whether you're someone else has packed your bag or what you're carrying in your bag, you kind of have to sign that waiver upon checking in. They did say that you would have to wear a mask upon check-in through security and for the duration of your flight. So for me, I took it as due diligence to wear my mask upon entering the airport. When I entered the airport, there were some people wearing masks, other people not wearing masks. When I got into the check-in line, I did hear the attendant at the check-in mention to some people to put a mask on if they didn't already have one. I don't know whether they were providing them, as I already had my own.
Right.
I was kind of surprised, like I said, when I got to the entrance, that nobody was enforcing that upon entering the airport.
Yeah, so there's no controls or checks. When did you first encounter any kind of protocol or control check?
So I was able to check my bag successfully, again with no temperature check. I didn't receive any type of check until I reached security. At which point a woman came about a foot away from me and used a manual IR thermometer and shone it at my forehead and I guess determined that my temperature was okay.
Okay.
And then from there, I proceeded to go through the security line where I noticed a thermal imaging camera. And I'm assuming that would have been, checking my temperature as well as a secondary check. From after the manual thermometer check.
Right. So this is okay. So this is the first time you've gone through all this process, and this is the first time they're actually checking. So people could have the symptoms right from walking into the terminal, but it's not till you get to security that they start actually checking for temperature.
That's correct. Essentially, somebody could walk into the airport, check their bag, and then get to security, and then it would be determined that they have a high temperature. And I'm not sure what security would do at that point. I guess, maybe go and try to retain their bag and such. But I was quite shocked that there wasn't any check until the airport security did that. I was surprised that the airlines themselves weren't enforcing anything. I flew through Air Canada, and so they didn't do anything upon check-in. After security, when I got to the gate, again, I was surprised that there was no temperature check being conducted by the airline.
So they
themselves.
never checked at the gate? Oh,
no,
okay.
They didn't check at the gate.
Okay. Okay.
And,
So, okay. How about social distancing? Were they making sure people were 6 feet apart, or how was that?
There was quite a low amount of people in the airport, so I felt that through security it was going pretty quick, but they did have tape and different X's kind of set to indicate how, to stand 6 feet away from people. And I noticed that, going through security seemed a little bit more, like a lot slower, just because people were standing that a little bit farther away from each other. But again, there wasn't as many people. So I think in a more, there's not as many people traveling right now. So that made it easier to maintain that distance. I can't imagine what it will be like in the future when
there's volume.
Get back to normal travel.
Right.
So.
Okay, so now you get past at the gate. You're now boarding the airplane.
Yes, so boarding the airplane, same kind of thing. At that point, there's no, there's no in the tarmac there. There's certainly no tape or anything like that. I think people, it's again, their due diligence to kind of stand away from each other. But everyone does have masks on at that point, because you're supposed to have a mask on for the duration of your flight. So getting onto the plane, where they would have 6 seats normally, they had the middle seats empty. So there would be 4 out of 6 seats full, so 2/3 the volume.
Right. So 3 and 3, is that?
That's correct. And then the middle seat they kept vacant.
Not exactly 6 feet apart, though.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah. And those seats were all full, the ones that could be filled?
Most of them, yes. When I looked around, I booked my flight a couple days before because I went for a family medical emergency. But at that point, I was only the closest to the front I was able to get was seat 21. So that can give you kind of a typical indication of how full the flight was.
Right. And so people are sitting in there, they've got their little kit. I guess if you're eating or drinking, you have to drop your mask or...
That's correct. And so that's the thing, essentially you're told you're supposed to wear the mask for the duration of the flight, but unless the flight attendants are really enforcing it, I did see people walking around with their mask kind of hung over one ear. And so I think that, it really depends on the person and their due diligence. They did, the airline themselves, they stopped any meal or drink service on the flight. It was a 5-hour flight. So what they provided for you, which they did tell you in advance on purchasing your flight that they had suspended meal and drink services. They did provide a little package at the beginning, which contained a water bottle, a mask, a bottle of hand sanitizer, some gloves, and an alcohol swab. And so that was, the flight attendants walked by, maybe once or twice and offered water bottles to people. But essentially that was kind of the change in service. So upon getting to Vancouver, I was surprised that coming through the gate there was no temperature check again, which I thought I was kind of surprised about because, during the time between me going through security in Toronto, my 5-hour flight, and all that time, of course, then going and getting through that gate upon arriving. There's a lot of time, I think, for a temperature to develop and a fever temperature. So I was quite surprised that there was no temperature check upon arriving into Vancouver at the gate.
Really? So no, from right to going to picking up your bags and leaving, there was no other checks going on?
That's correct.
How'd that make you feel?
Kind of nervous because I was surprised that, again, one, the airline didn't do it at the gate, but then upon, traveling through the airport where you would normally, there's the baggage claim area and, there's an exit part. But again, yes, no temperature check or anything like that.
Okay, so how do you feel about, would you travel again in the near future, or would that be an anxious experience for you?
Well, funny enough, I just flew back to Toronto from Vancouver 2 days ago. And so the experience was pretty much the same, except for in Vancouver, no checks until security. And I was quite surprised, actually, because, again, they indicated that you should be wearing a mask. And at the point of check-in, I was checking in, and there was a woman who was not wearing a mask standing 2 feet beside me. And so I actually turned to the Air Canada representative and asked and said, you should be enforcing that people should be wearing masks. We all have to agree to it upon checking in online before getting here. And
Right.
he said to me basically, well, it's the airport's job, not the airlines. And I was shocked because I was standing at the check-in counter of the airline, Air Canada. But again, no temperature check. And then when I got to security, that's where they did a manual IR temperature check. I was looking, there was no thermal camera. And then there were some people not wearing masks, which made me feel quite uncomfortable. I was quite happy that there was a security guard who used his authority and told people to get out of the line if they didn't have masks on, which was good. Everyone put their masks on at that point. But
so
again,
and again, it sounds like there's a month apart from flying there and flying back, basically.
Exactly.
And nothing's really they haven't changed their processes or procedures, it seems.
Not at all.
That's pretty amazing, Carly. I would like to, if we thank you very much for sharing that with us, because again, you have a unique insight, and unique because, working for PROVIX, you also look at selling this thermal imaging, or what you would, I believe you call, temperature screening technology. Can you share a little more about what that is?
Yeah, so PROVIX, we're a video integration company, and we supply thermal imaging cameras with alarm parameters for temperature screening or employee and visitor temperature screening. So essentially what it is it's a camera that when people come into the detection range of, it will quickly, within 1 second, capture their temperature on the screen and identify whether they have a fever temperature. So typically fever temperature is 37.3 degrees Celsius. And if somebody is that or above that temperature, it will kind of create an alarm and a red light and indicate that this person is above having a high temperature. And it's kind of a non-contact method of screening people's temperatures.
Right, and I believe you have an example of it beside you.
Yes, so essentially we've got this camera right here. It kind of looks like a tablet style camera. This one is our standalone model. Very easy plug and play. You plug it in, and essentially once it gets, it goes out of standby mode there, you can see that it will, if I'm here, it will actually quickly capture my temperature. But essentially it's meant for people to walk up to it. It would quickly indicate a pass or fail, show their temperature on the screen, capture that information, and it's meant to be a non-contact method of quickly determining whether someone has a high temperature or not.
Wow. And so are lots of companies taking you up on this amazing technology?
Yes. So typically we work with many different industries. I'm our mining technical sales consultant, and we've had many of the mining companies implement this. So Kirkland Lake Gold, Detour Gold, KGHM, Vale, Alamos Gold, McEwen Mining, Kinross, Asarco, Mosaic, many others across North America. We also have many distributors supplying this globally as well. We found that it's a inexpensive, quickly deployable solution to capture people's temperatures. And, just whereas, as I mentioned with the airport insecurity, that, we didn't really find an issue maintaining that social distance and that safe distance because there wasn't so many people. But I was wondering what it would be like when that much more volume increased. I think that at certain facilities where they have many employees coming onto shift at one time, or even a high volume of people, high volume of traffic coming in at one time, it's important to be able to capture people's temperature in a quick manner so that you don't have, high queues and high volumes of people kind of crowding and not being able to maintain that safe distance.
Right. It sounds like there's going to have to be maybe a little bit of a rethink on what increased volume of travel will most likely happen, hopefully sooner than later. But based on your experience, it sounds like there's room for improvement. So Carly, thank you very much for being on the show to share this unique experience with us, and look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon.
Yes, thank you very much for having me, Ryan. I greatly appreciate the time being able to talk about my recent travel across Canada and our recent technology that's aiding in temperature screening for many types of businesses and industries.
Perfect. Take care.
Thanks very much. You too. Have a great day.
And thank you for joining us on The Dig. Let's bring back Stephanie and get our update on our upcoming guests.
Thank you, Ryan. We are excited to announce that on July 8th, on The Dig, you will be talking to RWDI on how they are making work environment safe. And on July 15th, Progesys will be on the show to talk about how they are helping companies to get back up and running after they have been forced to shut down due to COVID-19. If you wish to be a guest on the show, please email us to thedig@mstacanada.ca. And one last thing, we are open to new members. If you'd like to know more about our membership, please email us to membership@mstacanada.ca.
Thanks, Stephanie. Until next time, I'm Ryan McEachern. Take care and stay safe.